it looks like we have about 25 participants. So I think we can go ahead and get started on our slides. Ayo?
Yes.
Oh, can we begin?
Oh, okay. I just sent you a message. Okay. All right. Welcome everyone and welcome to UCS. My name is Aya Ogunye. I am a career counselor with the University of Houston University Career Services. I work with alumni. I also work with the School of Communication. I work with grad students, and I'm also the liaison for international students. I will be co-facilitating this workshop today with Rebecca Andrews. She introduced herself earlier. So just a quick rundown of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing looking at a quick overview of University Career Services, and then we're going to talk about how to prepare for a career fair. And we're going to be looking at what to ask and what to say, some do's and don'ts, and then how you follow up. If you have any questions as we go along, please put your questions in the chat box. Cynthia will be monitoring the chat box. If you have, if there are any questions that she's able to answer, because she's also a career counselor at UCS, she will post the responses in the chat box. And if there's any questions, Cynthia, that you want me to address as we go along, or you want Rebecca to address, you can just let us know so we can do that. Unfortunately, I cannot see anyone, or I can't even see the chat box. So if you have a specific question for me, please put it in the chat box and then Cynthia can let me know.
Okay, and I can read the questions out if you'd like to, Rebecca.
Okay. So we have the leadership program, the Cooks leadership program. Remember, if you are part of that program, to complete a brief session after a brief survey after this session so you can receive credit. Your attendance is reviewed and is updated every month, but you have to track your own progress in the Get Involved profile for the Lead UH, for people who are involved in the Lead UH program. So just be aware of that. So for this fall semester, just because of the pandemic, we are on providing all our services virtually. So that would mean one-on-one appointments is done virtually. Our workshops, our career fairs, all the events that we have for the fall will be done virtual. We have a virtual chats, which is a 15-minute drop-in session every Monday through Friday from 10 to 12 p.m. and from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So you can stop by if you have a quick question, or you want somebody to take a quick look at your resume or cover letter, or if you have a quick question about job internship search or your professional development. Keep in mind that the virtual chats are just 15 minutes, and that's a very quick way to have somebody review your resume if you're not sure before you upload it in Cougar Pathway, so that you don't go through the process of uploading it in Cougar Pathway and then it doesn't get approved. So please take advantage of the virtual chats. Also, we have the 30 minutes career counseling appointment. So if you think you need more time for career counseling, whether it be to talk about your career goals, your job search goals, your internship goals, review your resume in depth, you can schedule a 30 minutes appointment through Cougar Pathway. Like I said before, all our workshops and all our events are going to be virtual this fall. But in order for you to attend, you still have to RSVP in Cougar Pathway. So if you see a workshop or an event that you want to attend, if you RSVP in Cougar Pathway, you will get a link, just like you did get a link to attend this workshop today. But if you do not RSVP in Cougar Pathway, you will not have access to that link. So if you see the event and you think that is something that you want to attend, but then you do not RSVP because you think it's going to be virtual, either through Teams or Zoom, you will not get the link. So please RSVP in Cougar Pathway to secure, to make sure that you get the link. One thing that we found out today is, depending on how you set your profile up, if you set your profile up not to receive emails from UCS, yes, you may RSVP for the event, but if your profile is set up in such a way that you do not want to receive emails from UCS, then you will not get that link, because when we email you, we're going to get a response back that your email is not set up to receive emails from us. So be mindful of that. Just a quick look at some of our upcoming workshops and events, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time here because you can see this in, oops, what did I do? Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, because you can see this in Cougar Pathway. So if you go to Cougar Pathway or if you go to the UCS website, you'll be able to see the fall workshops line up and also the days and the time. Again, like I said, you have to RSVP in Cougar Pathway so you can receive the link. The other thing I want to bring to your attention as we go through this workshop is to keep in mind that the All Majors Career Fair, again, it's going to be virtual. It's coming up on the 16th of September from 12 to 4 p.m. This is going to be hosted through Cougar Pathway. So if you're not familiar with Cougar Pathway, or if you haven't set up your profile in Cougar Pathway, or you haven't kind of just done an overview of Cougar Pathway, take some time before the 16th to look at it and just make sure that you're familiar with it, because the career fair will be held in Cougar Pathway. And I know that there's a pre-event tutorial, like a student demo day, that's coming up, and I'm not sure exactly what the day is and the time, but if you go to Cougar Pathway, you'll be able to see that day and that time. So just for those of you that are still not familiar with Cougar Pathway, you can access it through your Access UH. Like I said, you can schedule career counseling appointments. There's a where you can search for for on-campus jobs, internships, and full-time jobs. You have the opportunity to upload your resume and also have somebody review your resume and give you feedback on it. Also, schedule on-campus interviews and RSVP for workshops and events. So let's get into the workshop, the reason why you're here today. In the chat box, can you raise your virtual hand if you've ever attended a career fair, a virtual career fair, either before the pandemic or since the pandemic has started? And might I even add that if you've ever attended any virtual networking or career fair, please raise your virtual hand in the chat box. And Cynthia, just give me an overview of what it looks like.
Okay, they're just asking a variety of questions right now. So as we go on, then I'll read the questions out.
To raise their hands for if they've ever attended a career fair?
Oh, I'm sorry. There is 6.
Okay, they've
6,
attended.
7.
Okay, good. So if for those of you that have attended a virtual career fair, this may not be new information to you, but as an international student, there's going to be some tips and some techniques that I'm going to put in there. And of course, Rebecca is also online and she can also share some tips and some techniques with you as we go along. So first thing first, a career fair has opportunities both for the employer and for the student. So it's a win-win for both. So when employers attend a career fair, there's a lot of opportunities there for them. When students also attend a career fair, there's opportunities also there for them. So from the employer perspective, they may be attending a career fair, number one, to promote their company to prospective employers. They want to connect and meet with people who are future people that they see that will be an added value to their company. They also may attend to identify future leaders for their company or even to maintain their organization brand. So employers will attend a career fair, number one, to promote their company and look for people who have the skills, the experience, prospective leaders that they feel will be an added benefit to their company, and connect with them and meet with them and share any opportunities that they have open with them. I've seen to where employers will attend a career fair. They may not necessarily have a specific job open, but when they meet the right people and they connect with people, they network with people, they begin to think about how that person could add value to their organization, and then they begin to look at ways that they can bring that person on board. I don't know if Rebecca wants to add something to that.
Yeah. So career fairs are just great for employers because, I mean, we want to hire the future, and the young generation, the college generation. You guys are the future. You are our future leaders. So it's so great for us to be able to go to the different colleges and connect with you, to hire the future leaders of our company.
Thank you. So now from the student's perspective, what are some of the opportunities out there for you as a student when you attend a career fair? This is an opportunity for you to meet new contacts at a specific company. So usually we will publish a list of all the employers that will be attending the career fair. And we normally encourage you to go through that list, do your research, and have your top 5, your top 3, your top 4, whatever that number looks like. And then make sure that you stop by and connect with at least somebody in that company. Practice also your networking skills, because we keep talking about networking. You know, what has happened now with the pandemic is, for those of us, people like me included, who are introverts, and networking is not our, something that we like to do. What the pandemic has done is forced people like me, and introverts likewise, or people who don't like to network, to begin to look at it as there's no way out. You have to network, regardless of whether you have a job or not. If you're building on your professional career, you have to kind of at least be comfortable with your networking skills. So career fair is an opportunity for you to practice that networking skills by talking to different employers with different companies and making that connection with them. Also, an opportunity might be for you to be able to apply directly for a job or internship, or even get some job leads. So what that means is that you will be able to talk to the employer, the company, the recruiter, whatever it is, and they may be able to give you some good job leads that you may not even see on their website. They may be aware of some job leads or some job openings that might be opening in the next month or 2 months or something like that, and they may be able to share that with you. They may be able to connect you with somebody in a specific department in the company that they know that is looking for the type of experience and the skills that you have. Or they may even have a list of internships and job openings that they have, and they may share that with you so that you can apply directly for it. Also, use the career fair as an opportunity, as a resource tool to learn about industries and positions that may be available to them. Also, learn skills and experience that is needed for an industry or a company of your choice. Now, going back to international students, like I said before, I'm the liaison, so I work with a lot of international students. One thing that I hear that a lot of students tell me is that, well, there's no point attending a career fair because most of the employers do not hire international students. They don't sponsor international students. So they think it's a waste of their time. My response to that is, number one, when the employer finds the right person with the right skills, the right attitude, the right experience, you just never know what can happen with that. I have seen employers that say that we don't sponsor international students, but then when they connect with the right student, they have that conversation with the student, and the student is able to share the knowledge, the skills, the experience they have. They'll be like, oh, I'm going to push this because this is a talent that we see. This is a future leader, and we want this person in our organization. And they'll begin to do whatever it is that they need to do. Even if it's something that they've never done before, they'll begin to research ways and say, hey, what does it even take to bring somebody on, to hire on somebody as an international student? That's one. Then the other thing is, use it as a resource tool, as a way to practice your networking skills, to see what's out there, see what employers have to offer. Maybe you're not ready for work yet. You're not ready for an internship. Maybe you're a freshman and you're not going to be ready for an internship for another year or 2 years. Attending a career fair gives you the opportunity to practice your networking skills, to see how it works, to learn about the skills and the experience that the company will need, so that when you're ready for that job or when you're ready for that internship, you already have the information you need, or you already know that in order for me to work for this company, I'm going to have to sharpen some of my skills, or get some more technical skills, or develop my soft skills, or whatever it is that you need to do. And then you have time to take advantage of that and practice that. So always look at a career fair as an opportunity to learn something. Maybe not get a job from the career fair right away, but it could just be to connect with the company, connect with somebody who's at the company, or connect with somebody in the company who can connect you with somebody else. It's all about meeting people, connecting with people, learning about the company, learning about your skills and experience, and if there's an opportunity out there for you to be able to at least get that. Now, so what are some of the things that you need to prepare? Prepare your resume. Do not attend a career fair without a resume, even if it's a virtual career fair. Because if you attend a virtual career fair and you're talking to the employer and they're excited about what you're telling them and the conversation is going well, they may ask you to upload your resume. So you do not want to say something like, oh, I'll send it to you later, I have to update it. You have to have your updated resume ready so that when they say, can you upload your resume, you say, sure, and you go ahead and you just upload it. Also remember that employers will take 6 to 15 seconds to look at your resume. One page. They're not going to look at a 3, 4, 5-page resume. That's some of the things that as international students you have to be aware of. I see a lot of students with 4, 3, 5 pages resume. I understand all the experience you have. I understand all the unique skills that you have from your home country coming to here. I understand how it works in your home country, but here it's totally different. It's one page. All the employer wants to see is stuff that is relevant to the position that they have open. If it's not relevant to the position they have open, it doesn't really matter to them. They just want to see that everything you have on that one-page resume is relevant to the position that you're applying for. That's why if you're going to attend a career fair, you've done your research and you see the job openings for each company that you would like to visit, make sure you tailor your resume for that company and for the job opening that you've seen. Do not do a one-size-fits-all resume because you're talking to company A. They may have the same type of job description as company B, but there's still going to be a little bit of a difference. There's going to be something that is different, and you have to be aware of that. So make sure that your resume is one page, and also remember that the employer will take anywhere from 6 to 15 seconds to review that resume. So we have VMark. It's on Cougar Pathway. It's on our website. You can go look at it. VMark is a good tool for you to go and upload your resume and get instant feedback. So it almost works like the applicant tracking system. So once you upload your resume, it's going to give you instant feedback as far as your keywords that you're using, if it's well organized, what needs to happen. Please don't get confused with the score you get on VMark, because sometimes people will call and they say, well, I scored 70 on VMark, but when I uploaded my resume in Cougar Pathway, it was not approved. VMark is just a tool to help you get started, just to make sure that you have it well organized, you're using the right format, you're using the right keywords. Now, when you upload it in Cougar Pathway, what we do is we look at that resume and then we look at each section. We look at your bullet points. We look at, are you saying what it is that you want to say? Is this going to be good enough to market you based on the skills and all the stuff that you have on your resume? And then we'll say, okay, no, you need to make a few changes before we accept it in Cougar Pathway. So don't get that confused with VMark. Also, if you want to double check, attend one of our virtual career chat sessions and just have somebody look at your resume over and say, hey, I'm planning on attending the career fair on the 16th. Can somebody just take a quick look at my resume and make sure that it's good? It's where it needs to be. Even before you upload it in Cougar Pathway and say, okay, I'm getting ready to upload my resume in Cougar Pathway, but can you just take a quick look at it and review it? Oftentimes when we do that, we will give you some helpful suggestions that will help you so that when you upload your resume, you have no problems with it being approved. And also meet with a career counselor just to talk about your career goals. Tell us of which one of the 5, 2, 3 companies that you've identified that you want to visit during the career fair. Tell us why you want to go to those companies or why you're interested in those companies. And we may be able to give you some tips as far as how you should present yourself and what you should say when you get to see the employer. Rebecca, do you have any additions?
Yes, that was fantastic advice. And as a recruiter, I can confirm that we don't spend a lot of time looking at the resume. So we have a lot of resumes to go through. So it's so nice when I see a resume that's just simple, no fancy fonts, just plain and bullet points. Bullet points are huge because it helps me get an idea as to your skill set. I can just go down the resume. So one page is so important too, because I've actually had interviews where they had multiple pages of a resume and the second page got lost or there was some mistake in the printing. So you always want to have one page. If you have a lot of skills like Io mentioned, save multiple copies of your resume on your computer and tailor it to different areas that you might be interested in. So you might could have a marketing resume, a management resume. So just save different copies and then give that specific employer that copy. So if you have a banking resume, give that one to the banks. Also, while resumes should be simple, if you're filling out an application form, that's a little bit different. I did want to mention that most employers prefer a little bit more detail on the application form. So that is a little bit different than the resume. So resume, simple, application forms, we like more detail.
Thank you so much. And one of the things also that I see with international students is they value, and I understand that, their experience for their home country, and they want to say, oh, I had 5 years experience doing this or doing that, and now they just want to have it on their resume. You have to understand the employer that you're trying to reach out to here in the United States, they may not be familiar with that company or what that company does. So that's not really going to matter to them. So make sure that you really work hard on tailoring your resume and scheduling an appointment with one of us so we can take a look at it. Now, the National Association of Colleges and Employers, they ask employers participating in this job survey that they did last year, and they asked what skills do they desire in their employees. So on the screen here, you can see some of the skills that they desire. So communication skills is a big deal. Problem solving skills, ability to work in a team, taking initiative, quantitative skills, strong work ethic, verbal communication, written communication, and leadership. Some of these skills are soft skills. These are skills that it's hard to teach someone. It's really hard to teach someone how to speak or how to verbal communication, how to work in a team. Yeah, we can give suggestions, we can give teams. So this is soft skills. So it's a combination of technical skills and soft skills. This is what employers are looking for. Employers will value people who have problem-solving skills. They will value people who have the ability to work in a team. So what that means is when you go as an intern, or even if it's a full-time job, you have to be able to work together as a team, in a team. And I'm not even necessarily talking about just having to work on a specific project. Going into the office alone is working in a team. For example, in my office, yes, we have different projects that we do, different people do different projects. But as a team, we check on each other. Like we'll go in on a Monday morning and say, how was your weekend? What did you do over the long holiday? And we'll have that conversation. That shows that you're engaged and you're part of the organization and you care for one another. But what I've seen sometimes is what a lot of people will do is they just want to impress the employer so hard that they go into work and they say, well, I'm just here to work. I don't have time for small talk. I don't have time to socialize. I don't have time to even connect with employers. I'm going to be in my office and have my door locked and I keep doing all the work. You can do all the work and do all the great work, but then are you a part of a team? That's the question. It's not just to the work that you're doing, the technical, the soft skills also come to play. So as international students, I know that that's an area that sometimes is a challenge. And I've heard students tell me, well, I just want to go in and do this internship and impress the employer and just stay till 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I don't even take lunch breaks. And even when they want to talk to me sometimes, I just want to keep doing the work. That's great. But when they get to the point when they want to decide if they want to bring you on full time, they're going to start looking at all those things. How can you work as a team? What is your personality looks like? What does your verbal communication look like? What type of leadership skills do you have? Albeit it's still in the process and you're still developing it. So please pay attention to these skills that we're talking about. Do you have anything to add to that, Rebecca?
Well, someone asked a question in the chat. Can you give an example of a strong work ethic that is appropriate in a resume? I actually think you can better demonstrate your work ethic in an interview. So it's a great question. A lot of employers will ask, tell me about a time where you went above and beyond your normal job duties to either serve a customer, to complete a project, or, whatever that industry is. Always have an answer prepared for that question because that's something that's probably going to be asked a lot. And you can talk about a time maybe, where you had a school project that you went above and beyond your professor's expectations, or even at a job, you really went out of your way to make a customer happy. So always prepare an answer for that question and just keep it in your back pocket because that's something that's probably going to be asked in an interview.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. And thank you so much for mentioning that. I've heard a lot of students ask me, well, I don't have direct relevant work experience, so what do I put on my resume? Going back to the resume, your school project, your academic project is a good way to show that strong work ethic and to show your connection and the type of time projects you've done, academic projects or maybe group projects or maybe term papers or anything like that. So always consider also your academic projects as a way to show your skills. Now, a couple of things you need to do. Organize yourself before you attend the career fair. No matter how, even if you hear about a career fair tomorrow and you hear about it today and the career fair is tomorrow, you still have to organize yourself. Do not just go into a career fair just because you heard there's a career fair you're going in. If you're not prepared, it's better for you not to go, but organize yourself. Have a strategy. Part of the strategy is have your resume. Make sure you have an updated resume. We're going into the recruiting season now. So from now to probably the end of the year, there's going to be some type of recruiting going on. It's going to be virtual. It's going to be different for different companies and different organizations, but we're going into that season now. So what that means is that you make sure you have an updated resume. That's the first thing you do. The other thing is make sure you do your research. Make sure you we always provide a list of all the employers that will be attending the career fair. It changes by the day because employers sign up sometimes at the last minute. So always look at the list and identify the employers or the companies that you're interested in. Do your research. And I'm going to talk about why it's important about doing your research probably in the next slide or the slide after that. You want to know what the company does. You want to see if they have any job openings. You want to see if you have anything in common or anything that stands out in the company that you have that you can use as the opening line when you get to talk to the employer. You want to have a strategy. You just don't want to go there and say, oh, I'm here to attend the career fair. Do you have any openings? They're going to look at you like, really? You know, so you have to have a strategy. You have to be organized. Be prepared to share about yourself. Another thing that as an international student can be a challenge sometimes is international students sometimes, and not all, I'm just speaking from my experience that I've seen with some international students, they just don't feel comfortable talking about themselves. They've told me that, well, I just feel like I'm bragging, and that's just not who they are. And depending from their country, their home country, they're just not used to talking about yourself and elevating yourself and just talking about yourself. Well, in the United States, you brag about yourself. You share about yourself. You tell, you do a show and tell about yourself. You want to tell Rebecca when you meet Rebecca that this is who you are, this is the skills you have, this is the experience you have. You want to be able to convince Rebecca, not in a negative way, not in an aggressive way, that you will be an asset to her team and that it will be beneficial for her if she's looking for leadership in her team and trying to identify future talents to have a conversation with you because you have something to offer. That leads to having an elevator pitch. If you don't know what an elevator pitch is, then schedule an appointment with our office, schedule an appointment with me. I'll put my contact information at the end of the presentation and we'll talk about that. This is where you have 1 to 2 minutes to talk about yourself. All right, so for example, you meet Rebecca. Rebecca is online and she says, I have 6 positions that I want filled today. Tell me about yourself. You have 2 minutes to tell Rebecca why she should consider you for one of those positions. That's the bottom line. That's as easy as it can get. I don't know how else to explain it. So you've been wanting to work for this company and this is your dream company. You've always dreamt about working for this company, being in the C-suite with this company and all of that. And all of a sudden you meet the recruiting manager in a networking event or at a career fair and they say, oh, it's nice to meet you. Tell that recruiter or that employer, remember, you want to work for this company. That's your desire. That's your dream. You have 1 to 2 minutes to tell this person about yourself and why they should continue that conversation. What usually happens with an elevator pitch is if it does what it's supposed to do, then you're going to get a positive response from the recruiter or the employer, and that conversation is going to continue and probably end up with email me your resume or do you have a copy of your resume? If that elevator pitch doesn't do what it's supposed to do, then it's just going to be an awkward conversation. It's like you're going to say something and then, okay, who says something next? And that conversation is going to end. You never ever want to go to a career fair and have the conversation just dead end, like just end like, okay, so This is awkward. Who's going to say something? Who's going to close? Then you know what's going to happen, and I've seen it happen. The employer is just going to say, well, it was nice meeting you, and that's the end of it. But when it ends well, you're going to exchange some type of information, either contact, business cards, if it's done in person. But now that it's going to be virtual, it could even be something as simple as, I'm going to connect with you on LinkedIn right away, or email exchange or something, or email me your resume this evening or after this workshop, or something will come out of it. Arrive on time. I know it's virtual. I know we say it's 12 o'clock, it's virtual. Yes, we're all staring at a computer, looking at people, thinking that we're there in person. It's awkward, it's different. I get it, I understand that. But if it starts at 12, make sure you get there at least by 11:55. If you're not able, depending on the platform that they were using for the career fair, if they will not give you access into the career fair, at least be in the lobby, be in the waiting room. Most of these virtual platforms have a lobby. It has a waiting room. At least you'll be in the waiting room so that when they're ready to let people in, you're going to be one of the first set of people they're going to let in. You've arrived on time. And you may be wondering, well, it's virtual. Nobody's going to see me if I'm there on time. We're talking about post-COVID now. We're talking about as we're in COVID, but we're also talking about best practices that we should develop now to take into the post-COVID season. Learn to always arrive on time, because if you're in person, you still have to arrive on time. So if it's virtual, you also have to arrive on time. And if you have any comments, Rebecca, please jump in. Okay.
Two questions. I have two questions.
Okay.
So one of them says that if I'm not authorized to do the job due to my current visa status, but I'm looking forward to future prospects, should I still attend the career fair?
Okay, we're going to talk about do's and don'ts, and that's when we get to the status question. Forget about your status right about now. As you're going to school, trying to go to career fairs, trying to prepare yourself, do not put your status on your forefront. And I'm going to talk about that, I think, in the next couple of slides, why that could be a problem. If you begin to think about, yeah, with this visa that I have, I'm not going to be able to do this, you're not going to find the right job. Like I said to you before, if I have 100 employers in the room and I poll all of them and I say, do you hire international students? I would say close to 80% will say, no, we don't. But I can also say that if they find the right candidate, the right skills, the right experience, they see that person having leadership potential, they see that this person can have add long-term value to their organization, they will consider what it takes. So what you want to do as an international student is focus on the skills and the experience you have and how you can add value, as opposed to your status. And I'm not saying that your status is not important. Trust me, it is. I get it. I know it. But you first of all want to sell yourself to the employer. You want the employer to see you as somebody that they want to bring on board. And if they see you as somebody they want to bring on board, they will do whatever they need to get you on board, even if it means that they sponsor you. We had an international student who participated in the town hall we had this summer. She did an internship with a company that does not sponsor international students, and she was the first one that they sponsored. As I speak to you today, she has received her H-1B. And this is a company that when she went in there as an intern, they said that we don't sponsor international students. They've never done it before. So she's the first student that did that. So what she did is exactly what I'm telling you to do. She went in there to showcase her skills, her experience, how she can be of value to the company. And when she was done with the internship, they figured out, oh, we need to figure out how to bring her on board. And then she partnered with them, and then she was able to walk them through all the OPT, the CPT, what it means, where the employer needs to do stuff and where the employer doesn't need to do stuff, and walk them through that process. And it was an easy process for them. So we'll get to that in a few more slides. And I'm going to say, Cynthia, if we can just wait a little bit on the questions so that we can get through the content, and then we'll take questions in the end. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. The other thing you have to do is research employers, and I talked about that earlier. Make sure you get the career fair employer list. Make sure you go to their website, their LinkedIn profile, social media, wherever you can find them. Learn about the company, learn what they do. Make sure you're familiar with what type of company is it. Is it oil and gas? Is it finance? Is it technology? You never want to a career fair. You never want to go to a career fair and ask the employer, so what do you really do? Do you do technology, or what type of project? You do not want to do that. You want to go to the career fair and begin to talk to the employer about some of the types of project that you've seen that they do on their website, or any update that you've seen on their LinkedIn profile. That's how you want to go there. You don't want to go there and ask them. You may want to have an employer research worksheet, kind of have a workbook or something where you're taking notes on each employer so that you don't mix and match. Look for companies that have a low global operation. And I'll tell you why that is important. If you're looking for companies or businesses or industries that have some type of global operations or global representation, working with international students will not be foreign to them. That's something they're going to be used to because they have a global operation and they operate somewhere else outside of the United States. So it's not going to be strange to them. It's not going to be new to them. If they find the talent they're looking for, they'll be able to push that further because they have a global operation system and they have a way. I'll give you another example, because that sometimes giving examples is really helpful. I had a student also that did an internship with a specific company. They wanted to bring the student in. The student didn't win the lottery. They posted this student to a different, another part of their business outside of the United States. And that person worked there for like a year, and then they were able to transfer that person back to the United States. So going back to, if you show yourself as the best candidate and a good, having the skills, the experience for the company, they'll figure out a way to bring you in. Rebecca, do you have anything to add to doing research on employers?
It's so impressive to me when a candidate, when I'm interviewing someone and they already know some facts about our company and they, tell me, well, I know you guys are headquartered in Jackson and you were founded in 1889. It just shows me that you care. So I always recommend, if you can research the employers that are going to be at the career fair and just look up some facts, at least know, what business are they in, know what they do. But a lot of people actually don't do that. So I think that's a great way to make yourself stand out.
Thank you so much. So moving along, when you're talking to an employer virtually, in this case, let them know why you're interested in the company, what they do, projects that they're working on, just like Rebecca shared. Make sure that you say something that will make you stand out as a candidate, because, or something that will show that you actually did your research, or you know what you're talking about what they do. Tell them about some of the relevant skills and experiences that you have that you think will add value to them. Make sure you know what your goals are. You do not want to go to a career fair not being sure what your career goals are. So don't talk to an employer and start saying things like, I'm not sure if I really want to be in technology, or if I may be doing this, I'm still trying to decide. The employer wants somebody who already knows what they're trying to do. They may not have all the answers, but at least they have a way, they have a focus. So you don't want to go into talking to an employer without even having at least some type of goal. I mean, we're not talking about you having specific set in stone goals, because you're still students, you're still trying to figure it out. Especially if you're looking for an internship, you're still trying to look for the opportunity to figure out what is the best way for you to go. But you still have to have some goals. And then you also have to know how to market your skills to the employer. This is not the time that you want to be too forceful or just to show that you're too desperate. And that's another thing that I see, trying to be so desperate. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. Just talk to, again, like I said before, show and tell. Talk about yourself. Talk about the skills you have. Talk about unique experiences that you have. I always say, as international students, one of the skills, soft skills that we have is just being flexible and being able to take risks. You're leaving your home country to go to a totally different environment, learning a totally different culture, a totally different work ethic, work culture, how things are being done. Some things are new to you, some things you don't understand all the way, but you're ready to make it work. You want to work, you want to get an internship, you want to get a job, you want to immerse yourself. That's something that is very impressive. And oftentimes international students don't see that as an asset, but that's something that you have as an asset. That's one of the ways you can even market yourself, that you're ready and you're open to learning, you're flexible, you're willing to take risks, you're willing to do whatever it takes to make things work. That's the kind of things that employers are looking for. That's the way to connect with employers. Also, what are some of the questions you should be asking? What type of skills or qualities work well with your company? So you want that additional information. Yeah, you've done your research. You probably know some of the skills they need, but you don't know all of it. They may be telling you something that you haven't found out when you did your research. You may be asking them like questions like, what do you need to do to stand out as a strong candidate for the organization? That's not to say you're not a good candidate. You want to be a strong candidate. Now you have that opportunity to ask them one-on-one, showing your interest in the company and say, hey, I'll be ready for an internship next year. What can I do right now to prepare myself to be a strong candidate? That's why I said before, even if you're not ready for an internship this year, you can still attend a career fair so you can begin to network and you can begin to have all these questions answered. Like, I'm looking for to apply into your company next year as an intern. What do I need to be doing in this academic year to stand out as a strong candidate? What is the application process like for this position? Some of them will tell you, you go through this, you go through, at least you have a timeline. I would like to connect with you on LinkedIn. That's a really great one, because if they say, yeah, sure, and they give you their name, as soon as you walk away from them or while you're talking to them, you might say, just give me a minute, let me do it. Make sure you have your LinkedIn app already pulled up and just connect with them right away. Because if you're trying to connect with them like a week or 2 weeks after the career fair, they may not remember who they met. A lot of recruiters and employers, especially during the hiring season, they meet with a lot of students. They're not going to remember. I even get a lot of LinkedIn requests and I'm like, I don't remember meeting this student. They may have asked me when I first met them or when they first came to my office, but I'll be like, I don't remember where I met the student. I don't know. But what usually happens is whenever I do a workshop just like this, by the time I'm done, my LinkedIn profile is like full of like 8 or 10 requests from people. And I'll just go in there right away and I'll just approve it, because I know that, okay, they listened to the presentation, they're trying to practice what we told them to do, they're connecting, and that's what it is, and I'll connect with them. But if you're doing that like a month later, I may not remember who it is. And then the thing is to ask how you can contact them to follow up. Would you prefer me to contact you on LinkedIn, or would you prefer me to email you? That's a good question to ask, because then they'll tell you what their preference is. Usually I'll have students tell me, well, I sent the employer, the recruiter, several messages on LinkedIn and they never responded to me. Well, we don't know if that's what the preference is for the employer. Maybe they don't check their LinkedIn emails every day. I don't know. But if you ask them that question and say, I would like to stay connected with you, or I would like to follow up with you, what is your preference? Then they'll tell you if it's LinkedIn, if it's an email or whatever, they'll tell you what it is. And at least you have that information. Rebecca, any additions to that?
These are all really, really good questions. I think I would add, you can ask the person that you're speaking with about their experience with the company. I think that people like to talk about themselves, so I find those questions fun to answer, at least. So, people might ask, what do you like what do you like working, with Trustmark Bank? What's your favorite thing working with Trustmark? How long have you been with the company? What made you decide to go into the role that you're in? So that's another way to kind of make a connection with that person, is ask them about themselves and their experience with that company. And you can find out additional information about the company and its culture.
Thank you so much. That was great. All right. Do not ask the employer if they sponsor international students. Please don't ask them that. Even if you know for a fact you've done your research, even if they sponsored somebody that you know, do not ask them if they sponsor international students. If we were in person, I would have asked a couple of people to share why they think it's not a good idea. And I don't know, maybe I can still do that because I really want to know. So either the chat box or Cynthia, however you want to do this, why do you think it's not a good idea to ask the employer if they sponsor international students? I would like some feedback on that. Or even for the second one, do you hire international students? So those two questions, why do you think it's not a good idea to ask the employer, even if you know that they sponsor international students? And Cynthia, you can just throw out one or two and then I'll continue, I'll move on.
Okay. Looking in the chat, but I don't see any reasons why they wouldn't answer those questions.
Okay. It's not a
Because
good idea to ask the company if they sponsor international students, because that has taken the focus away from what you have to do or what you can offer the company. Now the employer, the recruiter is thinking, oh, you just want to know if they sponsor or you're looking for sponsorship. Well, that might be true. You may be looking for a company that does sponsor international students, but that's not what you want to put out there. Okay? When you're saying, do you sponsor international students? You're not talking about what you can offer the company. Now you're talking about sponsorship, and you're talking, because sponsorship we know involves time, effort, and a lot of money. So now you're asking them to make that commitment or to answer if they're willing to do that extra over and beyond when they haven't even figured out if you're a good addition to the team. Do you hire international students? They may look at it like, oh, so if we don't hire international students, you don't even want us to hear anything about you or see what you can offer us. So do not ask them those two questions. Those questions are burning questions in the mind of international student. Do not ask them that question. You can email me, you can schedule an appointment and say, hey, I met with this company. Do you know anything about their sponsorship rate? Do you know if they hire international student? With my research and the little bit of information that I have, I will be able to guide you better as far as if they do and what they do. And there are some websites that can actually show you employers that have hired international students or sponsored them, and the rate at which they do it and the level of the job in which they do it. Plus, also, there's a lot of things that also come into sponsoring international students. You have to be in the right major. You have to have the job that is relevant and tied to your major. So there's other things to go with that, which we're not going to be talking about in this presentation. Do not tell the employer when you're doing your elevator pitch, hi, my name is John Doe, and I'm from da 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 da. That's not your identity, because what you're telling the employer right away is that you're sort of like an international student, because they know. So if I say my name is John Doe and I'm from, let's say, Zimbabwe, for example. So what does that have to do with the skills and what you have to offer? Like we talked about, and like the feedback that Rebecca gave when she was giving you some ideas on how to introduce yourself. It's not about whether they hire an international student or where your home country is. It's about what can you offer them and what is about you. Don't ask them what the company does. We've already talked about that, or what positions they have open. If they ask you, will you need sponsorship? Because sometimes employers will do that, especially employers that are familiar or used to, or employers that sponsor, they will ask you, will you need sponsorship? These are just ideas. I'm not saying go ahead and do this and take this. Everybody's situation is different. I would prefer you schedule an appointment so we can talk that through. But I'm just saying, these are some of the things I've heard. People may respond with something like, my education visa covers me for internships. I do not need authorization or sponsorship for an employer, which is true. Because while you're still a student for internship with your CPT or your OPT, you do not need any type of authorization for sponsorship. But the employer does not understand that. They may not necessarily know what that means. So you would have to educate them some more on that. Or I would not require sponsorship or any additional paperwork or expense to work for your company, or something like in the lines of that. So you're telling them, especially when you're talking about your OPT, your CPT, you don't really need any authorization or sponsorship from them. If you're a STEM major for 3 years, after 3 years, then the sponsorship becomes an issue. But prior to that, the 3 years of your OPT and the CPT internship, you do not need any type of sponsorship or authorization, but you really have to know how to answer those questions, and you really know to know how to address that, which again is not the purpose of this workshop. If that's something that you need help with, Cynthia, please put my email in the chat box. You can email me, we can schedule an appointment, and we can talk about that some more. Dress for success. Even though it's virtual, there's still a dress code policy. You cannot assume that because you're at home, in your living room or your bedroom or wherever you are, it's okay for you just to be in a tank top or a t-shirt, or you're not professionally dressed. You still have to make a good first impression. You still have to have your shirt on. If you want to put on a tie, whatever you want to do, you still have to dress to impress, because you have to look at a virtual career fair as an in-person career fair. So some last thoughts. always remain professional at all times, even if the employer is not responding to you in a timely manner, because again, it's virtual. They may be, I don't even know how the platform works well, but I know that on some platforms, they may actually be talking to a student, so they still have you in the waiting room, virtual waiting room, while they're finishing up with the student. And then you don't want to get impatient, like, okay, I've been sitting here for 5 minutes and I'm emailing this employer and they're not responding. Just be patient. You have to realize that being virtual, it's different from you. It's different also for the employers too. And we're making the best of the circumstances under what it is. We're doing the best we can. We're grateful that we're able to even have a career fair. Even in the midst of a pandemic, we can still do it online. And I know that there are people that attend offers that came out of it. So you still have to maintain professionalism at all times. You always have to remain positive. You always have to remain positive. One thing that I found out with international students, and this happens all the time, is they tend to talk amongst each other a lot, which there's nothing wrong with that, absolutely nothing wrong. But what happens is they say things like, oh, don't go to that employer. That employer doesn't hire international people. They don't work with international students. We don't know that for a fact. Again, like I said, it depends on your skills and your experience. Don't go with a list and say, oh, I'm going to blacklist some of these companies because I've been told that they don't work with international students, they don't hire international students. Again, you don't know that for a fact. It's not a one size fits all. To thine own self be true. Market yourself to the employer and let the employer decide which way they want to go. You just do what you need to do. And I've seen too also where international students will say, it doesn't matter to me if this specific company doesn't sponsor or hire an international student. As long as I can do an internship with them and gain work experience, then I can take that experience and go to another company. Those are all options that you have, but it's not a one size fits all. You have to figure out what works for you, depending on your career goals, your academic goals, your professional goals, and what you plan to do after you graduate from the United States as an international student. You also have to realize that as an international student, we recommend a year out of graduation for you to start the job search process, because it takes a little bit longer for you as an international student. There's so many other things that come to play with that. The other thing is, be on the lookout. You will get emails from me every now and then. We have several workshops that we have specific for international students. And we're not trying to single international students out. We just realize that the information for international students, it's a little bit different. We have to bring that in a different way. So that's why we have separate specific workshops for international students. So be on the lookout for it, or you can email me and I can send those workshops to you so you can plan the semester out. And then the last thing I want to say is always leave the career fair with something positive. Even if you did not feel like it was a good experience, even if you didn't feel like you got any job leads, if you went in there with a job lead, always have a goal for why you're going to the career fair, either to get job leads, either to make connections, either for networking skills, either to practice your networking skills, either to learn about the organization. Always have a goal for going to a career fair and always leave with something positive. Even if it's that I really pushed myself networking at this event, I went over and beyond, I went beyond my comfort zone. Or even if it's, oh, I was able to connect with 2 people that I did not know, or I learned 2 things about this industry, about this employer that I did not know. Always, always leave with something positive. After the event, send a thank you note with your email and your resume and a cover letter. Connect with them, like I said, on LinkedIn. If they've told you to apply online, do not wait for another 4 or 5 days. Go ahead and do the application right away. And it's always a good idea to schedule an appointment to kind of just go over your experience at the career fair, lessons learned, what you think went right, what you think you could have improved on, and then to go and talk about what the next step is. Thank you so much. And I'll take questions at this point. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, so I can go back and I can see. So we have about, I would say, another 10 minutes. If you have any questions for myself or for Rebecca, you can. I would actually like for people to ask the questions and also for them to put it in the chat box or whatever you're comfortable with. If you want to raise your hand because you want to really ask the question, I think I would like that. I would like to see a few of that just as a way of practicing everything we talked about, just to see, to hear questions people have, and also the chat box.
Okay, we have a question. You
Okay.
can unmute yourself.
Hello?
Yes.
So is it appropriate to ask about how you can follow up about any internship opportunities they have after your elevator pitch ends when you first meet them?
I'm going to let Rebecca answer that.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. It helps us know what you're interested in. So, I mean, you can even include that in your elevator pitch. I mean, you can say like, "Hi, my name is, Rebecca, and I am interested in an internship, and I researched your company, and I saw that you guys have an internship program available. So I'd love to learn more about that." I think that's totally fine.
Okay. Thank you, Rebecca.
No problem.
And Kumar has a question. How do you obtain a referral for a position?
Well, I guess it depends on the company. Most of the time, referrals are employee referrals. So, like at our company, we don't really, unfortunately, we don't really have a rewards program right now for our employees, but I always get referrals, people passing along resumes. So I would say probably making a connection at that company, if possible. A great way to do that is by attending a career fair, and then maybe they could pass along your resume to a recruiter.
Any
Are there
additional
any questions, Cynthia?
No, I'm looking in the chat. Not yet.
Okay.
Let me see. Rebecca, they'd like to know if you can share your LinkedIn profile on the chat.
Okay, sure. I would love to connect. Yeah.
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Another question I have, so want to understand correctly, if I apply to an opening which explicitly specifies it's only for U.S. citizens, no sponsorship required, will I be annoying to the recruiter if I submit my application? As a STEM OPT, I don't need sponsorship for 3 years anyway.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons why you should try and attend some of the workshops that we have for international students. What you're going to find out is that as you do the job search and the internship search, you're going to have to play around a little bit. And what I mean by that is, yes, you do not need any type of sponsorship, STEM OPT for 3 years, your internship and all of that. But then the job is asking for people that are not US citizens or US citizens. I forget how the question was posed. Would it be annoying? That's a risk you have to take. If it annoys the employer, they'll just not call you back, or you just won't get any feedback from them, or nothing. That's the end of it. But then if it doesn't matter to them, they'll reach out to you. So you never know. So that's not an answer that I can say, yes, do it, or no, don't do it. It's one of those things that you're going to have to do it. Now, what I would probably suggest is see if you can find the recruiter or a contact in the HR department and send them a separate email before you apply. I mean, if that will make you comfortable. So that's why I'm saying there's so many tips and so many techniques and so many ways you can get around it. And if you attend one of our workshops, we cover all those unique situations that can happen. So yeah, I would say if you're able to find a recruiter, you can send them, and that's the benefit of LinkedIn also. You can actually get more information about the company and the recruiters on LinkedIn and send them a message explaining to them. And there's a standard, I usually encourage international students to have a standard cover letter that addresses OPT and CPT issues, things that talk about there's no requirement from the employer. The employer doesn't need to do anything different. They're not going to get in trouble if they employ an international student who's on OPT status, all of those things, but explained in a very simple bullet point form so that when the employer reads it, they're like, oh, okay, it's easy. I mean, it's not that complicated because you're not asking for sponsorship. But if you need more help on that, reach out and then we can schedule an appointment and go over what that looks like. I hope
Sheldon
I
has
was
a
able to
question.
answer that question.
Sheldon has a question.
Okay.
Hi guys. I got like two quick questions to ask. One of them is in regards to in terms of like the applications, like when they say like 3 to 5 years or 2 to 3 years or 5 to 10 years, like how strict is that if you don't fall into that category? And also, in terms of networking, because we're coming from a different country, it's very hard to come into contact with people that are already working in the company. Sometimes our first contact is a recruiter at the job event, you know? So I'm thinking like, what's the best way to approach someone at a company? Not particularly for a job or internship, but just for this experience, advice, and, you know, like what the company needs and expects from people like me eventually when I want to apply, without
Okay.
being
So
aggressive and looking like you know you're just trying to
yeah.
weasel way into a position or something like that. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm going to answer that, and I'm also going to let Rebecca answer that. But then I also see a question in the chat box, and I don't want to miss that question. So I'm multitasking here. I'm going to answer your question first, and then I'm going to look at the question I just saw. Please, we have a networking skills workshop that we provide for international students. So we cover the different ways that you can network with people, especially if you're new to the United States. We talk about events that you can attend, some of the ways you can do it. Even we go into specifics as far as how you can do it on LinkedIn and the different things like that. One of the things that we're not going to be able to do, at least for this semester, is doing the events that we do online where we have you actually do the networking in person, because we do have a lot of events that we put together in our office where you actually come in and do the networking, and then we see that we're not going to be able to do that this semester. Hopefully we're going to be able to do that next semester. But yes, I will send you the link like I will send to every international students when we do that networking skills. So we have the networking skills workshop and we have the developing your soft skills workshop, and we will go in depth as far as to answer that question about how you network. We even go as far as how you network as an introvert and as an extrovert, and how you can do that. Because if you're an introvert, you're an introvert. I'm an introvert. I don't have any control over that, but I still have to be able to network, and I have tips and I have best practices, lesson learned for that. So I'm going to let Rebecca answer that in a minute. But before she does that, somebody was asking a question, and oh yeah, should I have a cover letter written for the engineering career fair explaining CPT, OPT? This is the same thing I talked about earlier. There's no need for you to have a letter explaining CPT or OPT. There's no need for that. Your reason for going to the engineering career fair is to market your skills and experience to the employer first. The employer has to be interested in the skills and the experience that you have, and they have to want to offer you something before you begin to talk about OPT and CPT. So if you go to the career fair and you have this cover letter and you hand it over to the employer explaining CPT and OPT, think about the pressure. The employer is on the pressure. They're doing this virtually. They're talking to 1,001 students, and now they have a letter. Somebody's explaining CPT, OPT. They have no idea what that is. They're just going to put that aside somewhere. They're not even going to pay attention to that. So there's no reason for you to have that cover letter yet. When you've marketed yourself and your skills, and they want to have a face-to-face, they want to have the first screening interview, and they're going through the interview process, you will get to the point where they will ask you, and then you can begin to explain through the cover letter about CPT, OPT. So the short answer to that is, do not bring us CPT or OPT until you get to the point where the employer has seen you as somebody that can add value to the organization and they want to bring you on. All right, I'm sorry, I just didn't want to miss that question. Go on, Rebecca.
Yeah. So going back to the question about career fairs, I mean, honestly, recruiters, we do this job because we like to talk to people and we like to connect with people. So, I mean, don't be afraid to just go to a career fair to network, even maybe if you know that you can't work for that company right now. I mean, who knows? That could change in the future. So, always, use career fairs as an opportunity to network and connect, and just you can, do some research on the company, like know what they are, But I think it's a good idea to just go and say, I would love to hear a little bit more about the types of positions that you offer or the types of programs that you offer, and then just use it as an opportunity to learn more about that company.
Thank you very much. So we have 2 more minutes, and I want to be mindful of Rebecca's time. Rebecca, please feel free. I just want to, honor you again and thank you so much for taking the time to talk to students. You had some really, really, really good tips, some good information. We're very grateful that you're able to join us today. Please feel free to leave if you have to leave, and I'll hang on like for another 10 minutes if students have questions. But officially the workshop is from 3 to 4. I just want to be mindful of people's time. You may have class that you want to attend as a student. Feel free to leave if you want to, but I'll hang on for another 5 minutes just to see if there are any extra questions.
Io, thank you so much. I actually do have a 4 o'clock meeting I've got to attend. So thank you so much for having me, and you guys, best of luck at the career fair. And it was so nice connecting with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you,
All
Rebecca.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Cynthia, do you have a meeting?
No.
Okay, good. So Cynthia and I can hang on for like another 5 minutes for any additional questions, or also Cynthia, I think she put my email in the chat box if you just want to put it one more time for follow-up.
Yes, I'll put it one more time. There is another question about, in general, when you apply online, are you expected to submit a cover letter and resume together, even if it doesn't explicitly ask for a cover letter?
Yes. So again, like I said before, as international students, when you're applying for a job, you have to do everything that you know you're supposed to do, because you just never know. Now, for people who are not international students, they may get away with just sending in the application without a cover letter or whatever. But you, as an international student, you want to cover all bases. Anytime you send a resume, you always have to send a cover letter, even if they do not ask for one. Let me tell you, as an international student, why that is of additional help to you. If you're one of those people that have a resume that is like a page and a half, 2 pages long, and remember we talked about at the beginning of the session that your resume cannot be more than 1 page, that cover letter is an opportunity for you to showcase additional skills and experience that you want the employer to know that you have, that you're not able to list on your resume. So that's a good way to put that on your cover letter. So the short answer to that is complete the application. If they tell you to upload your resume, please upload your resume. They will ask you to upload any other additional documents. They're talking about like transcripts and cover letter. Always upload a cover letter.
I just had a follow-up question to that. So in the past, I used to make a new cover letter for every single different company or job type I would apply for. I was wondering, does it look poorly if you had a generic cover letter that's not addressing the specific company when you write it? Because it does play out like a letter, with dear and whatnot. I was just wondering if it's okay to have a generic cover letter, or is it something that you're supposed to address specifically to the company you're applying to each time?
I will not recommend a generic letter for anyone, international students or otherwise, because if I'm a company and I read a generic, I've read so many resumes and so many cover letters. I've been doing this thing for over 20 years. When I read a generic cover letter, I know it's a generic cover letter. So the first thing that comes to my mind is, oh, well, this person is just trying their luck with whoever. Well, it doesn't matter if they don't get a job with me. I don't really care. But when you do a letter that is specific to that person, think about it as a person. And I'm just going to mute yourself if you're not talking. I'm getting a lot of background noise. I'm sorry. So I'm just going to give you a personal example or something. If I get a generic text or WhatsApp message, I know it's a generic message. I'm not going to respond to that because this person just sent this message to everybody on their contact list. But if you address me, even if it's the same message, just the fact that you address that message with my name or something that makes it unique that it's me, then I feel like, oh, this is for me. That's the same way the employer looks at it. If you have a generic cover letter, then it's like, oh, well, this person is just sending it to all the employers they can find on LinkedIn or on Indeed. But if you say, dear Kevin, dear Cynthia, I was just looking at your website and I'm very impressed by some of the projects you're doing, then I know that that is for me. You did take the time to find out what it is about this company. So I will not recommend a generic cover letter.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Thanks for the
Thank you. I see a question here. Somebody's asking, should I bring up that I'm an international student? For some reason, a lot of international students really get stuck with that. That is something that I'm going to try as best as I can for the time that you're a student at University of Houston, and as much as you connect with me, to let you lose that mindset. A lot of times we are just stuck on, I'm an international student, I'm an international student. That is true. We know that you're an international student. I was once an international student. I had to learn the hard way to not present myself as an international student. That is not my identity. That is not a guide for whether I get a job or I do not get a job. A guide for my getting a job or my working on my professional and career goals is to build the skills and experience that I need for the employer that I want. So whether I'm an international student or not should not be an issue. It should not be something that you focus on. It should not be something that you are just hooked on, because that will not really help you too much. The right time will come when you will bring up that you're an international student. And I will give you an example. I like to give a lot of examples from UH students that I've worked with so that you know that how this applies to you as an international student. There was an international student that was looking for an internship. The first year, they were not able to get an internship for many reasons. They didn't start on time. And when they started, they didn't have the right documents. Anyway, they didn't get an internship. The following year, in their junior year, they got an junior year going to senior year, they got an internship, but it was not what they really wanted to do. So while they started doing that internship, they realized that, oh, this is not exactly the type of thing I wanted to do. So now senior year comes along, they're going to graduate. They have to get a job that year. They're going to graduate. Otherwise, what's going to happen? So they begin to aggressively look for work. They attended one of these career fairs we're talking about. I think it was NSB or one of those career fairs. I'm not sure I remember what. And they were talking to different employers and nothing looked like it was happening and all that. And finally, they got to this one employer, and the employer was interested in them. And I think at this particular conference, I can't remember which one it is, they usually do on the spot screening. So they screened this student and they said, okay, yeah, we're going to schedule a time to have an interview. They had a first interview. Nothing came up about whether you're an international student or not. This student is a biomedical engineer. They talked about the different project the person did. They talked about different things. They did the second interview. Everything went well. And they did the third interview, and they offered the student the job. Now, when they offered the student the job, they asked the student, are you going to need sponsorship for you to take this job? And the student chose to answer. Remember what I said? Mark my word, I said, the student chose to answer no. It's a choice. That's not something I'm going to tell you to answer one way or the other. You have to know what you're comfortable with. You have to know what you're doing. You have to know how OPT, CPT works. You have to have that confidence in yourself to answer whichever way you want to answer it. And the student answers, no, I don't need sponsorship. So then I asked the student, I said, why did you answer no? The student said, well, because I applied to 3 different jobs, and every time they would ask me if I need sponsorship, and I said yes, they said, sorry, we don't sponsor international student. Then the student went ahead to tell me, but I don't need sponsorship for OPT. So the student understood what they were doing. I did not give that student any advice about what to say. The student did understand that. So the student said, no, I don't need sponsorship. So they said, okay, your start date is going to be July, whatever. They gave the student the start date and all of that. The student started working last month, or was it a month and a half ago? And when they got there, the student gave them the OPT authorization form and said, here's my work authorization. It's good for 3 years. And that was the end of that. So when do you bring up an international student? There's a time where that will come up. For this particular student, it came up on the first day at the job during the onboarding when they asked for employment paperwork, and he gave them that OPT authorization, which is good for a year with a 2-year extension. So what I'm saying is the right time will come when you bring that up. If you bring it up at the wrong time, you will not get what you're looking for.
Ayo, So I just want to say that a lot of times I like to give the analogy to international students that you have to think of yourself as a foreign luxury car, and you're the salesperson. So you have to really sell the features of the car, right? Like, does it have leather seating? How fast does it go? All of that stuff. And then you hit them with the sticker price, right? You
Yeah.
don't tell them the price of the car first. You have
Yeah.
to sell it first.
Yeah, that's a very good analogy. And I like somebody saying in here in the chat box that it's very hard to get rid of your thinking as an international student. It's hard. It was very hard for me too. I had the accent. My name gave me away that I was not an American citizen. The way my understanding of the work ethic gave me away that I was not an American. There were so many things already that was giving away the fact that I'm not an international student. I had to do something to get that back. And one of the things I had to do is not look at myself as an international student. I mean, we all listen to the news, so I'm not going to say anything that we don't know. We know that what's happening now in this nation with the pandemic and all these other things, you have to be positive and sell yourself and push yourself forward as much as you can. Making yourself an international student all the while, it's not necessarily going to get you what you're looking for, and it may get you what you're looking for. We don't know. We don't have the answers to that. So you just have to do what you're comfortable with, what you're okay. Like I said with this student, the student chose to say, I don't need sponsorship, and the student got the job. The few times that they say, yeah, I can only work for you for 3 years, and then I'm going to need, the student didn't get the job. So the student decided, okay, well, I'm just going to do what I need to do. But again, they had already done their research. They had already come out of the mentality of being an international student. They're now thinking, I have the skills to do the job. I've done this. I have the experience. I have the academics to back me up. I have the skills to back me up. I have everything to back me up that I can do the job. Give me the opportunity to do the job. And that's not an easy process. It's not something that happens overnight. It's something that happens over time. I hope that was helpful. We only have time for one more question. If anybody has a question, we can take just one more question. I think I see Sheldon raising his hand. Cynthia, I don't know. So we can take only one more question. Otherwise, if you have any additional questions or need additional help, you can email me.
Yes, it's Sheldon.
Hi, yeah, that's me again. I just wanted to know, I just want to write down the steps that I need to take to schedule an appointment with you for resume critique or anyone in your office.
So there's two options that you have. You can either go to Cougar Pathway. Both options will require going to Cougar Pathway. Go to Cougar Pathway and schedule a career counseling appointment. So once you go to request the appointment, it's going to ask you a few questions like, what is your preference for day, time, and all of that. And then you'll be able to see the career counselors that are available. If you want to schedule an appointment with me, you may not find something right away in Cougar Pathway, only because all my appointments are almost all gone. But if you email me, we can work something out. Then the other option is to the virtual chat. But the virtual chat, you only have 15 minutes where you can actually go in and have somebody look at your resume or whatever you have. But again, that's only max 15 minutes.
Do you think like someone would need more than 15 minutes for the critique?
Is this your first time of writing a resume?
No, it's not my first time.
Probably not.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for your words of encouragement and stuff. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. So if anybody has any additional questions, or if anybody would like the slide, the PowerPoint, just email me. I can forward it to you, or we can schedule a time to follow up on this workshop. Thank you so much again for attending, and we hope you have a good rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aya,
Yes.
I'm trying to download the participants.
Okay. Yeah. That we have to do that before I end it. So I'm going to let you do that before I And
Well, that's the thing, I can't find it. So you may need to do you know where it is? When you go to participants, I know where it is, but I don't see the access to it.
I cannot, okay.
See,
I
when you,
think, let me see.
let me try it again.
When you go to show participant,
It usually has a ...
yeah, you see those 3 dots right next to the X or something? That's
There, it's not there for me, so I don't know if I can do it. Is it on yours?
let me see.
Because I've done it for class before, but I don't see it on here.